Guys, so in this video, we are going to cover topic 3, which is solving that quadratic equation by completing this square. So before we go into example 1 and 2, I want to talk to you about what the idea is behind completing this square. You are supposed to take this trinomial right here, and the idea is to make it a perfect square trinomial so that it can be factored like this, x plus 3 squared. So the idea is we will know the b term, we will know the middle term, but we've got to be able to add something to both sides of the equation so that it becomes a perfect square trinomial. So if you can look at where we're going with the factoring, you should be able to recognize that if our answer is going to ultimately be x plus 3 squared, then what we notice here is that this guy right here is going to be a 9, right? So, and that's because if you were to multiply x plus 3 times x plus 3, you're going to get x squared. You're going to get 3x there and 3x here. That's why you'll always end up with a double amount of those middle terms. And then the last one is just going to be that last term squared, right? 3 squared. So let's take a look at this. If I have x squared minus 8x plus what? Like, how do I figure out that number? Well, we should know that if I am going to end up with negative 8 as my middle term, there needs to have been two numbers that would give me the 8. So that's going to give me the negative 4. So think about that like this. X minus 4, x minus 4, we get x squared, we get minus 4x and minus 4x, and that's why we get the 8x, right? And then obviously here we have a negative 4 and we're squaring it. So that's going to give me 16. So here's your takeaway. So you are going to be able to find this last term by taking half of b, half of your b term, and then squaring it. So half of b and then squaring it. All right. Now, the nice thing about the half of the b part means that that's what's going to give you the this term inside that factor. So let's take a look at number 1. So if I have x squared plus 4x plus something equals, now this 1 is not going to help me out because that's not going to give me this perfect square trinomial that I can factor out. The easiest way, in my opinion, and the most efficient way is to move it to the other side. So we were going to subtract 1 to both sides. Now we are in a position that whatever we add to one side, we add to the other. The question is, what do we add to both sides? So if we go back over here, we're going to take half of b, which is 2. So what I like to do is, in that thought process, I like to immediately go here. If I'm taking half of 4x, that's going to, or half of 4, that's going to give me a 2. And then now I've got to square the 2, and that's going to give me a 4. So I'm adding 4 to both sides. So if I do this all at the same time, then I get to also already have it factored at the next step. And so that's going to equal a 3. Now I am ready to take the square root of both sides. But remember, you have to add plus or minus. So I have x plus 2 is equal to positive rad 3, or I have x plus 2 is equal to negative rad 3. So let me clear this out just a little bit right here. And then now you finally finish solving for x by subtracting 2. So x is equal to negative 2 plus rad 3, or x is equal to negative 2 minus rad 3. All right, now let's try number 2. So if I look here, I notice that that 5 will need to go to the other side. So I've got x squared minus 3x. Whoops, I think my lag time is for sure. Let's try that now. Let's move that 5 over to the other side. We get x squared minus 3x plus something is equal to 5 plus something. And remember, what we have to do for that something is to take half of my b term and then square it. So my b term in this case is -3. So half of that is just simply -3 over 2, but then I've got to square it. So when I square -3 over 2, that ends up giving me 9/4. So I'm going to add 9/4 to both sides. Now that may be a little intimidating, but all the hard work is done because you have just made this a perfect square trinomial where I only need to really understand here, if I were to factor it, I get -3 over 2, right? This guy right here is going to be what I put in terms of my factor. Think about it like this. If I have x minus 3 over 2 times x minus 3 over 2, if I were to multiply that out, I would get -3 over 2 minus x, and then minus 3 over 2 x plus, right, because it's double negative, 9/4. So I would end up getting -6 over 2x plus 9/4, and that simply reduces to -3x plus 9/4. So even if it's an odd number right here as your middle term, just know that you'll end up with a fraction in part of your factored form. And so if I add 5 and 9/4, I'm just going to quickly go 20 over 4 plus 9 over 4. I really would prefer improper fractions because right now I'm going to be able to take this square root of both sides, adding that plus or minus, and I get a positive rad 29 over, remember that this is rad 29 over rad 4, which simply is going to give me a 2. Or x minus 3 over 2 is equal to negative rad 29 over 2. Finish solving for x by adding 3 over 2. So adding 3 over 2 plus rad 29 over 2. Or, and then again over here on this side, adding the 3 over 2, but this time it's minus rad 29 over 2. And then I get to box my answer right there. All right, so I would like to do this you-try problem. It's not too difficult. X squared minus 6x and then equals 13. So pause the video and try to complete the square. Okay, so coming back here, if the nice thing about this was I didn't have to move anything over, it was already on the other side. So I just had to add something to both sides. The question is, what is it that I add? And remember, I'm taking half of my b term and then I'm going to square it. So half of -6 is -3, and then I square it, and so I'm adding 9. So when I get to add 9, I get to end up putting this in factored form. And then now I get to take the square root. So I've got x minus 3 is equal to positive rad 21. Oh, that's not 21, is it? That's 22. Some of you are like, wait, what? What'd she do? I was just in the morning. All right, so that's 22. I need my coffee. And so, or we have x minus 3 is equal to negative rad 22. And then I have x is equal to, if I bring that 3 over to the other side, 3 plus rad 22, or x is equal to 3 minus rad 22. So hopefully this wasn't too painful for you.